I need to breathe because I just lifted the entire pile of books that you saw in the thumbnail for way too long to get a good pose. So hello everybody, welcome back to Bandits and Bookworms. My name is Deidre, and today we are going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag. We did this last year on this channel because it is somewhat of a booktube tradition, it seems, to do this mid-year tag to kind of check in on how we're doing with all of our goals, our reading, what things have been going on, what books do we maybe want to talk about, what are some of the highs and lows, what are some of the things that you're anticipating, what are some of the things that maybe you're dreading, all in one video. So we're going to go through that for me. Just to give you a couple of updates on my stats, my trusty reading journal, I've kept a close watch on some of my stats. Now, some of the things that you may notice is that this video is likely coming out before my wrap-ups for March, April, and May come out because I'm bad at this. This will give you a little bit of insight as to what's been going on with me, at least reading wise. I have currently, as of today, which is the 21st, June 21st, I have read 51 books. So I am ahead of goal, which is super cool. I've only read one classic, so I'm behind goal on that one. I have mostly successfully completed my Bookopoly prompts. I've at least attempted every month to do them, but I have DNF'd or soft DNF'd at least 3 of the months so far. And then so far I've read 4 out of the 10 Goodreads Choice Awards nominees from last year that I wanted to read. So we're a little behind on that so far too, but we're getting there. So as we go into this, know that I have done quite a bit of reading this year, which is great. I'm super excited to see that I've continued to keep up this reading habit and to escape into these stories that are so good and so cool. And I'm going to talk to you about some of them right now. The first prompt that we have to go through for our list today is the best book that I have read so far this year. And I do, on my phone, I have a handy dandy little spreadsheet that I have been also keeping in addition to my reading journal where I can more easily see all of my cop piles and everything like that. And the book that I've chosen for the best book I've read this year is not actually my highest rated. It's my 3rd highest rated technically, but I'll explain here in a second. But this is how high I'm having to reach up in order to get my books. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen it on my story a few days ago because I just posted it and that's when this will go up. But I have a stack of books next to me for what we're going to talk about today. So it's going to be good. We're in a good spot here. The first book that I have to talk about for you, the best book that I've read so far this year, is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. So this book follows Elizabeth Zott in the 50s and 60s. She is a chemist. She is a woman and she is a chemist. And it is the 50s and 60s, so women are not treated particularly well in the scientific fields, even, worse than they are now. It's about her through life circumstances and her dealing with life circumstances, landing herself on a cooking show, or she gets a cooking show through this network, and empowering women to be more empowered, be more independent through cooking with science. And it resonated with me on such a deep level that it has sat with me all year. We're almost fully halfway through the year and I'm still thinking about this book. I will probably think about this book for the rest of my life. It was so good. I think it was the best written book I have read this year. I think it was the most incredible way of telling you a story about just a person who is a person trying to deal with the world that they are given and being like, I will not kneel to the world that exists around me. I will make it kneel to me. And that is so cool. Technically above this, I have 2 of the books in the ACOTAR series because I did do a reread of it. While I did enjoy those immensely and they will always be a comfort read for me, this is a better book objectively. It just is. This is also one that is a little bit heavier, and so I'm probably not going to revisit it all the time, but I will absolutely revisit it at some point in the future. It was also my 2nd or 3rd read this year, and it was so good. I don't know that anything's going to top it. So, Lessons in Chemistry, the best book I have read this year. Please go out and read it if you haven't. It's so good. We're also going to see how precarious our stack gets because it's going to be kind of funny. The next book on my prompts list here is the best sequel. And for this, I did use an ACOTAR book, and that is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This was my first time reading it this year. I didn't put any rereads on this list. I've only done a few. This is the 4th full novel in the ACOTAR series, and it follows Nesta, Feyre's sister. I'm not going to go too much more into this because if you're still reading ACOTAR, spoilers obviously ahead for things, but I'm not going to get too far into it. Also, yes, I do have a custom dust jacket for these. I am so happy I grabbed these before they went out of stock. Nerdy Ink is the one who made this dust jacket, and they do have a bunch of other really cool stuff on their website, and they just kind of refreshed their collection. So this was a very fun, good read. I really enjoyed it. It managed to take a character. Sarah J. Maas has done this in several of her books now. I'm working my way through the Throne of Glass series where I have not liked a character and then suddenly like she writes some stuff and I'm like, you know what, actually I see this now, right? And like if you go back and reread things, I'm like, okay, I see that perspective there the entire time. I went into A Court of Silver Flames fully being a Nesta hater and not really understanding like what the hell her problem was, and then coming out of it not necessarily loving Nesta, but at least appreciating her character. And like when I went back then and reread the Akatar series and the Faysand storyline, I saw more of that in her and was more accepting of her and wasn't nearly as irritated by her presence. Fully worth the read. Really looking forward to the next one. I know Sarah J. Maas is currently in the process of writing it, so really looking forward to it. The next prompt is Unread New Releases, or a new release that I haven't yet read. I have 3 for this prompt. I have several that I have not yet read, but 3 that I can think of off the top of my head when I was making the list, so I just kind of ran with those 3. And one of them just came out, and that is Leather and Lark by Brynne Weaver. This is the sequel to Butcher and Blackbird, which was another one of the books that I read this year that I did really enjoy. I think this is Marriage of Convenience, I want to say. It's a romance book. The first one followed 2 serial killers. This is, I think, not quite the same sort of thing. I don't really know much about it other than I know that I really liked Butcher and Blackbird, so I'm gonna get the sequel. So that's one that I haven't read yet. The next one that I haven't read yet that came out way earlier this year is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This is the sequel to Divine Rivals, which I read last year, which I really loved, and I got the Book of the Month edition of this one, and I haven't picked it up yet. And I need to. I don't know why I haven't. Don't really have an excuse. Divine Rivals followed 2 reporters, I guess, journalists, in a fantasy setting that were rivaling for a promotion at their same newspaper, and them falling in love is essentially what it was. It is a rivals to lovers romance, and it is a lot of fun. I really liked it. In fact, every year Ariana, Kira, and I do a Bandits book exchange where we each gift a book to the other 2, so that by the end all 3 of us have read 3 books together. The one that I gave them, or one of the 2 that I gave them because I couldn't choose between the 2, one of them was A Study in Drowning, and then the other one was Divine Rivals. Still need to finish out the duology on that one. That's book 2. And then the third book that I need to read that has been released this year that I haven't gotten to yet is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I started this one. I think I got a pretty decent amount in. Not like a super decent amount. It was probably around 10%. And then I put it down. And I don't know why. So I need to give it another shot because I didn't really intentionally DNF this, but I kind of did. I think it's enemies to lovers, or maybe it's like kind of friends to lovers with a secret thing that, you know, makes them... It's a witch and a witch hunter falling in love, essentially. But I don't think the witch hunter knows that she's a witch. That may also be a spoiler for my April wrap up, which is I didn't get to that one. So next up is what is an anticipated release for the second half of the year that I have. And I can only come up with one that I was like really looking forward to still. Most of the releases that I have been looking at were for the first half of the year just because I did all of that research in January and we didn't have release dates for some of these things that are coming out later in the year. So I would need to sit down and look again to see if there's anything that's really coming out. But there's one thing that I've been tracking since then. So I'm going to say that that's my most anticipated release. And that is Apprentice to the Villain, which is the sequel to Assistant to the Villain, which is by Hannah Nicole Marer. This followed Evie, who is just looking for a job. So she goes to work for the villain, who has made himself the villain in this like local fantasy world kind of a thing. And it is comedic. It's so funny. It's so cute. It's also kind of a slow burn because like spoilers for anybody who cares about this one, so don't listen, but like they don't even really get together by the end of this. Like not really. Like the feelings are kind of out there, but there's nothing really going on with this. And I think this is planned to be a trilogy. I'm really looking forward to Apprentice to the Villain, which comes out, I believe, in October. Super looking forward to that. I'm going to pick that up as soon as it comes out because this was one of my favorite books so far this year. I not so far this year. I read it last year, but it was one of my favorite books last year. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. The next prompt is the biggest disappointment that we've had this year. And I have 2 for this one. One of them I did talk about in my February wrap up, which is The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic. I got through that in one take. It's incredible. I'm a new person. But The Unfortunate, I'm not going to be able to do it again though. The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by... definitely by a person. The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brianne Randall. This is one of the few that I have hard DNF'd this year, where I just wasn't going to happen. That one I did talk about in my February wrap up, I believe. It had no idea what it wanted to be. It followed two characters. It was supposed to be like a practical magic kind of a thing. Then it also kind of had some Gilmore Girls in there. And then also like, I just, it was too much in too short of a time frame. I didn't care about any of the characters. I didn't care about the romance. I DNF'd it at like 60% because I eventually got to the point where I was like, I don't feel like I'm going to love the way that this turns out. I don't feel like I'm going to like this at all, actually. And I went and looked up some spoiler reviews of it. And sure enough, the things that would happen in the later parts of the book, I would have absolutely zero want to finish the book. So I didn't. That was a big disappointment because I had really been looking forward to that one. And honestly, I really like the cover for it. It's super simple, but like, I really enjoyed it. I'm one of those people that like aesthetic is everything, as you can probably tell by like the office that I inhabit myself with, but I really feel like that was a huge disappointment for me. The other one I have a physical copy of, and I'm really sad about this one because I will eventually be unhauling it, but it is one of the more beautiful copies of a book I've gotten this year. So an Illumicrate book, and it was To Cage a God by Elizabeth May. I haven't talked about this yet in any of my wrap-ups, so I'm going to be brief about it here, but I do go into more detail on it in the wrap-up video that will be coming out soon. TM. This was a bummer because it is a pretty edition of a book. Like, it's got some cool end papers with some like neat stuff on the inside here, and like the foiling on the front is cool, and just like it's a cool copy of this book. I really like it, although I think it is just kind of a different colorway. Instead of the original cover, I'll overlay the original cover so that you guys can see what that looks like. But this was the Illumicrate for January, I want to say. I could be wrong, but I was really looking forward to it because it kind of seemed like it was like magic and rebellions and like just kind of all the like fantasy tropes that I really like. The world building was really rough. I didn't really feel invested in what was going on. I felt like a lot of the backstory that we're just told about should have been this first book, because this is also the first book in a series, to get us more invested, and then this should have been the second book and much shorter. The magic system is not very well defined. It seems like it is a hard magic system. Like, there are rules for how these people call upon the gods that are like caged within them and how that all works. But also it seems like there wasn't thought that went through some of it. I'll go into it more in my wrap-up video, but just know that like there was a lot of inconsistencies with this book. There was a romance piece of it as well that like I kind of bought into the romance, but I think I ended up giving this a 3.0 flat on my caw pile scale, and I will not be continuing with the series. I was happy when I got finished with it because I could check it off my list of like, oh my god, I'm finally done with this. But I will be unhauling it. It's a beautiful copy of the book. Like, the edges are gorgeous, and it's just, the book wasn't good. It was bad enough for me that I will not be continuing the series. It's not like Immortal Longings even, because Immortal Longings I also gave a 2-star to last year. I think I might have ended up giving it a 3-star. I probably should have given it a 2-star, but I'm going to continue with the series because I could see toward the end it going somewhere. But this I don't see going anywhere that I want to see it. So the next prompt on our list is the biggest surprise we had this year. For this one, I have two, both for personal reasons, not necessarily for like, I wasn't expecting it to be good and then it was good. It's more so like the reading experience surprised me. The first one that was a surprise for me was like my third or fourth read of the year, and that was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one, it was surprising to me only because I got it in audiobook format, and it was the first audiobook I've ever completed, and it taught me how I can enjoy audiobooks, which like for somebody like me, I have ADHD and like depression and anxiety, and like, you know, I have the mental trifecta of, you know, illnesses. Let's go. But the big thing for me with it was that I needed to be doing something while I'm listening to audiobooks, and I cannot be the passenger in a car. I tried to listen to audiobooks with my husband on road trips before where he's driving, and I zone out. I zone out way too hard. I can drive though. I can drive with the audiobook on, and as long as I'm doing something else, I can have an audiobook on. But it has to be something kind of mindless where I can focus on the audiobook mostly. So I can't listen to audiobooks while like I work or anything like that. I'm rambling about how I listen to audiobooks, but for those who might have similar issues to me, this is what I have to do. I have to either be cleaning or driving for the most part. Sometimes I can listen to them like in the shower or something like that. That way brain can focus on multiple things at once, you know? And it was really good. The audiobook was very well narrated. I talk about it in my January wrap up. Go check out that video if you want to hear more about how I felt about that book. But The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, just as a quick synopsis for anybody who doesn't know, follows a biographer or journalist who is writing down the life of this celebrity, Evelyn Hugo, and her life in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, something like that, when she was a movie star, and putting it all on paper basically for her. The twists and turns it takes are really good and all of that. So that was a surprise for me, but only because of the format that I read it in, because like I said in my January wrap-up video, I read Daisy Jones and the Six. Both of the books by Taylor Jenkins Reid that I have read, I really loved. So either I just got her greatest hits and now I'm done, or I need to read some other ones. Like I know like Carrie Soto is back, and there was a few others that are like really, really popular that I need to take a look at. Then the next one that was a biggest surprise for me was actually a surprise because it was something that, like, as I came out of finishing ACOTAR and finishing A Court of Silver Flames, I think specifically, I was looking for something that was going to pull me out of like the ACOTAR hangover. Like I always had, until February of this year, I had A Court of Silver Flames sitting there ready to be read. And then I read it with some friends, and suddenly I was done with the series, and I was like, I don't know what to do now. This next book helped bring me out of it, and that is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Brabant. This book cured my ACOTAR hangover. I also listened to this on audio. Actually, this was the first book that I've ever gotten as a audiobook trophy. I have not actually really cracked this one open. Like I have a little bit, but like I never really actually looked at the book, listened to it and its sequel, but this really got me out of the like ACOTAR, like what am I gonna do now syndrome, where like I figured out how to like other books. Serpent and the Wings of Night follows, it is a human entering into what is essentially the vampire Hunger Games, trying to get a wish, and her wish is basically to become as powerful as her father, who is the vampire king of her court, essentially. I know that Daughter of No Worlds, which is one of her other series, is really popular amongst a lot of the booktubers that I watch. I haven't read that one yet, but I will, because I loved this duology, and there's a third one out now that I need to pick up because again, it was my second audiobook too, which like really solidified that I could read audiobooks. This book was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's also a fantasy romance. Yeah, there's not much else that I can say about it without going into spoilers, because I went straight from this book into the sequel, and there is a pretty defining moment where like they cut off, but there are things that get revealed in the sequel that don't really get revealed in the first one. If you like ACOTAR. So the next prompt on the list is my favorite new to me author. And for this, I have two. One of them we just talked about, Carissa Broadbent, who wrote Serpent and the Wings of Night. She wrote Daughter of No Worlds. I really love her writing style. I'm really looking forward to getting into Daughter of No Worlds. Right now I'm listening to the Jade City saga on audio. So that's my current audiobook, but I will probably go into Daughter of No Worlds next. And then my other one that I put on this list was Brynn Weaver, who wrote Butcher and Blackbird. I really, really enjoyed Butcher and Blackbird. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the characters that she wrote were really good, and like while there were certain parts of it that were like super extra cheesy because it's like serial killers falling in love with each other, the character moments like made me really emotional in that one. So I'm really looking forward to Leather and Lark, and I don't know if Brynn Weaver's put out other stuff, but I'm gonna take a look and find out because I'm curious and I want to know if she has, because I really enjoyed it so far. There is certainly not enough time for me to read all the books that I want to read, so that certainly applies to authors as well. As a side note, I saw a list. I'll have to put up my screenshot that I took of this, but Goodreads promoted a list to me that was like all the books that you need to read before you die, and it was like 30,000 books. So that's too many books. Goodreads, there's not enough time for me to do that. The next prompt we have on our list is newest fictional crush. I am a simple girl with simple needs. I think I said Reese for this last year. I might have said Carden. This year, it doesn't really change. My newest fictional crush this year, I have two. One of them is Rain from Serpent and the Wings of Night, and the other one is Hades from A Touch of Darkness. I have a type. It's who I am as a person, and I thought they were both very well written characters. I definitely love the like misunderstood villain kind of trope. That is something that appeals to a lot of people in this space, I think. That's why it's so popular. The next prompt we have on our list is the newest favorite character or characters. I only chose one for this prompt this time because most of my favorite I really do read a lot of like character driven books, and so I have a lot of like favorite characters. I have not read the sequel to this book yet, so this may change. But right now, I'm thinking of the woman on TikTok who got a tattoo of Tamlin. But my favorite character, one of my newest favorite characters, because I have a lot of them honestly, is Wendell from Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This was a book that I read, I think I read it in March, I want to say. Wendell saved this book for me. I was getting close to DNFing because Emily Wilde at the very beginning is insufferable. And that's the whole point. So this follows Emily Wilde, who is going around and documenting instances of fairies in Norway, in a very specific village in Norway, and she's looking for a very specific type of fairy. In this world, fairies are just known to exist. And she's literally a professor of them at Cambridge, I'm pretty sure. But she teaches about them, and it's in the early 1900s. I think it's in like 1909, I want to say. But they are professors together, her and Wendell are, and their relationship is so fun to watch and be a part of, and he is just such an interesting character. Not much else to say about it without giving spoilers away for the book. It was a lot of fun to read, and I am really looking forward to the sequel. All right, we're getting down to the last few prompts here. This next one is not hard to do, just for the record, but it's a book that made you cry. Because this is not hard to do, I could have chosen so many books that I've read this year. I cry like a little baby child. Baby is me. Any form of entertainment, I feel emotions and I feel them readily. And I'm okay with that. It's a character trait about myself that I have had to come to enjoy, or I would be really irritated with myself all the time. I chose one that I didn't expect to make me cry because I didn't know what I was walking into with it. And that is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. So this is the prequel novellas to the Throne of Glass series. I talked about this and how I came to my decision on what my reading order was for this and why I did what I did in my January wrap up, I believe. This book saved the Throne of Glass series for me because I DNF'd. I didn't hard DNF it, but I did DNF Throne of Glass because I was hating Selena. And I'm on Crowd of Midnight still. I haven't read it yet, so I haven't progressed any further than in my last wrap-up videos. But this book made me feel things about Selena and for her character that I was not expecting to feel. Her story getting into Throne of Glass, if you're the kind of person who kind of needs the context of who a person is as much as you possibly can get before going into a story, read this first. If you want the mystery to be there, read Throne of Glass first. But I tried to read Throne of Glass first. I tried to follow the SJM approved reading order and couldn't do it. So, but this book made me feel things for that character and pushed me into really, really rooting for her then in Throne of Glass, which I think was important to me. That's all I have to say about that. Next on my list is a book that made you happy. Again, I could have chosen any number of books for this. I chose one that just kind of like gave me the this feels nice. This is a good, nice comfort read. And I read it right when it came out, and that is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This follows Misery and Lo. Misery is a vampire, Lo is a werewolf. Misery gets married to Lo in a marriage of convenience to kind of try to ally these two paranormal supernatural beings into an alliance. Then shenanigans ensue. Misery is the daughter of one of the highest ranking councilmen in the vampire world, and Lo is the pack alpha of his werewolf pack. So it's a big deal for these two to be getting married. We are in a fated mate situation. We are in a sort of rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers kind of a thing. Misery is a vampire, but she's spent most of her life living amongst humans because she was the vampire collateral to the humans. So to keep their peace when she was a kid, and then when she was returned to the vampires and then became an adult, she chose to live her life amongst the humans and lived a primarily human life as much as she possibly could, but is still a vampire. And so when she goes to the werewolves, they're kind of expecting her to be able to give them information a little bit. She's like, well, I don't know what's going on. I've been with the humans. I don't know what's happening. She did just confirm that she's in the process of writing the sequel to it. I just literally a few days ago on Monday, it's now Friday, I went to an event where she spoke at a local event at our local bookstore because she lives in my area, I guess. She was there signing books, and I got my copy of Not in Love signed by her, which was super, super exciting. But this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm super looking forward to the sequel. It does get set up for additional stories in this universe. I really liked the universe that it took place in, and I felt like we got enough world building for the story to make sense and for me to be intrigued, but for there to still be enough to explore in later chapters. So this book made me happy. It was a nice time, and it gave me the feelings that I wanted to feel about it. How's the stack looking? Yeah, we're looking pretty good. We've still got several more books that are going to go on this stack, so be ready. The last two prompts, I have multiple books for each of them. The next to last prompt is the most beautiful book that I have gotten this year. And I've gotten a lot of really cool editions of books. A lot of mine have sprayed edges, a lot of mine have like cool covers and stuff like that, but I have two that I want to talk about. One is a standard edition, which is the Ashes and the Starkers King. Actually, both this and the Serpent and the Wings of Night, this is the sequel to the Serpent and the Wings of Night, have the same sorts of deals where it's like, the cover A is cool. I just like this cover. It is a very basic like fantasy romance cover, but I just like it. I like the color palette. I like the way it's laid out. Like it's just a good general cover. The spines look cool. Like I like them a lot. The reason why I put this on here is because I ordered these online and I pre-ordered them and I wasn't expecting them to be printed hardcovers. So this is kind of a surprise. Like it's really cool looking, but like both of them have like a print on the hardcover. The Serpent and the Wings of Night is a little bit different, but and then like the back says love is a sacrifice at the altar of power. That was really cool. I also just love the like chapter designs and the page designs. Like let me see if I can find a yeah, like the chapter designs and everything are just really cool. So like I really like the fact that this came in and was just kind of a surprise for how pretty it was. And then the next one on here is one of the Illumicrate books, which like they're all gorgeous. So I just kind of like had to eventually pick one that I really liked. And the one that I got is the one that I most recently picked up, which is To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods by Molly X. Chang. So this one is really cool because I like the cover itself, which I don't know if this is just an alternate colorway. It could be. But the dust jacket is cool, but the reason I chose it is because of the printed hardcover. A lot of the hardcovers I have from Illumicrate are just foiled, but this one is printed very cool. It's got some really cool imagery on it. Everything. The stenciled edges are also very nice. I liked these a lot. And then I also really liked, this is the real reason why, is the end papers. The end papers are just gorgeous, and there's two different ones, and I thought that was really cool. So I chose that one, but this is, if you're interested in Illumicrate, I'm also not a rep or sponsored by them or anything like that. I highly recommend them. I think that they're a quality book box. I'm kind of getting away from like doing book box subscriptions, or I might just do book only, just because like a lot of the stuff I'm not going to use that come in them, but I do really like having the special editions. And there have been a couple of special editions that came through, like A Study in Drowning, for books that I really loved, and I'm so glad I got them. There's a give and take of like, you might miss something that you really want to get that you don't know about. And then the last prompt that we have is books that I need to read by the end of the year. And I don't think this is supposed to be new books because there were other prompts for this. So this is just books that I have that have been on my list that I really need to get to by the end of the year. And honestly, like I'm kind of in the boat where like I'm going to even up the ante on this prompt a little bit and say there are people who do these as like entire videos. I don't have enough books physically to do that, but I will do it here in this video that I need to read all 3 of these books by the end of the year, or I have to unhaul them by January 1st. I have to unhaul them or I have to read them. I have 3 of them. So the first one is the first Illumicrate book I ever got, which is Zara by S.J. Jones. I picked it up. I started reading it. I didn't really get very far into it, but like it also has some really gorgeous sprayed edges. I think these edges kind of kick the crap out of any of the edges I've gotten since. Its end papers are fine. I don't really like the end papers on this one, but it's okay. But it's also got like a themed book from the book itself. Like this book, The Maiden Who Was Loved by Death, is in the book. So, but it's a pretty edition, but it's a young adult fantasy that follows like forbidden magic and there's romance and stuff like that. So it's something that I would totally be interested in. I just haven't picked it up yet, and I need to motivate myself to do that. So by the end of the year, if I haven't read it, I have to unhaul it. Same thing with one that I bought for a book club that I ended up not continuing with. That was a local book club, but that is The It Girl by Ruth Ware. Picked this up for a book club last year, and never read it, and it seems like it could be something that I'm interested in. I don't know. I try not to read too much about thrillers, the synopsis of thrillers when I'm looking into them, just because like I feel like it gives stuff away for me. I just need to read this. It's been sitting on my shelf haunting me for like close to a year now, and I'm over it. So I'm either gonna read it or unhaul it. That's where I'm at with this one. And then the last book on my list of things that I have to read by the end of the year or I unhaul it, Court by Tracy Wolff. I read the first 3 books of the Crave series as a part of a series of me doing a big breakdown of every Crave book. I think I may have accidentally deleted my footage for that, so that would suck if I did. But if I did, I'm not going to finish the video, but I will finish the series. I did the first 3 books. I read all 3 of them right in a row. I recorded videos in between each one of them, and it was just a lot of work, and it kind of turned me off of the series, even though the series I was enjoying. So I just need to read more of this. This is I like to refer to it as not Twilight TMTM, or Twilight if it made sense. This is a girl goes to a monster academy, falls in love with a vampire, shenanigans ensue, with a lot of extra steps in there. There's a lot more to it. There's also like dragons and I think there are werewolves in it. And just like there's other like mystical creatures in this as well, not just vampires and werewolves. But like I need to figure out if I'm doing this video or if I'm giving up on it and just reading the series. I have the entire series. I just need to read it. So there's my stack. Yeah, that's my mid-year freakout. Honestly, I'm doing pretty well this year. I'm pretty proud of where I'm at with my books. I've read 10 more books so far, 10 or 11 more books so far this year than I had at this time last year, which is good. I think this is probably a good reading pace for me to keep. I'm probably not going to up the ante much more than this. I still have 6 months to complete all my goals, and I think I can probably do it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite book so far that you read this year, or tell me in the comments what your least favorite book you read so far this year. I want to know. I want recommendations for things. I want to see if I've recommended anything to y'all that you've read that you really enjoyed. That would be great too. Make sure to give this video a like if you're liking this content. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss my next video. It will be coming, I promise. I'll be here. And in the meantime, I hope you are practicing safe text. Bye.